Welcome to our math time. We are going to keep working on story problems today using our tape diagrams and making sure our answers are reasonable. And that means they make sense. They're not like 2,000 chickens in my yard. That would be crazy. Like make sure they're reasonable, like 2 puppies in my yard. That's very reasonable. All right, the vocabulary we'll be using, we'll keep using the word fewer and more. So fewer means you have less of something. I have fewer markers than you, I have less. If I have more, that means I have more than you do and you have less. All right, we're gonna practice again. I'll do one to show you. We'll do 2 together and then you'll do 1 by yourself. So make sure on the ones that we do together, you're pausing the video if you need to, you're working out the problem and you're doing your best to understand, okay? Because that makes your brain work harder than just sitting here listening. Because sometimes I get tired just sitting and listening. So make sure you're actually working it through with me, making your brain think and drawing the pictures with me, okay? So our first word problem, ready? I'm gonna read it. I want you to visualize and picture it in your head and think about what we could draw. Brandon's soccer team, so Brandon's on the soccer team in the story. His soccer team has 13 players. Brandon has 4 less players than Damien has on his team. How many players are on Damien's team? Now we don't just want to say 13 is our whole or our biggest number because we really need to think about this. Yesterday, the first number we saw usually was the whole, but today we really need to think about it. So Damien and Brandon both have soccer teams. Brandon has 4 fewer players on his team than on Damien's team. So let's think about that. So if Brandon's team is smaller, whose team would be on top? The big number. It would be Damien's, and that's what we don't know. Okay, so we don't know our whole. So I'm gonna make a number bond with a question mark there. We don't know. And if we did our tape diagram, we wouldn't know the whole. But let's listen to the rest of it and think really carefully. Brandon's team has 13 players. That's 4 less than Damien has on his team. So we know that's one of the parts, 13. Or you can put it over here, 13. And that's 4 less. So if 13 is 4 less, 13 plus 4 more would give us how many Damien has on his team. Okay, so see how we had to think about that? 13 was not the biggest number. It was 13 and that was 4 less than how many Damien had. So now that we have our parts, we can figure this out so fast because we know when we have 2 parts, we add them together to get our whole. So that's pretty easy. We can just do 13 plus 4. Oh, my 4 is sloppy. Let's do our counting on strategy. So 13 and add 4 more. 13 in your head. 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. So that would mean Damien has 17 people on his soccer team. And that's more than Brandon's. Now let's make sure it's reasonable. Brandon's soccer team has 13 players. Brandon has 4 less players than Damien's team. So that means Damien's team should have more. Does our answer show that Damien's team has more? Is 17 more than 13? Yeah. Is it some crazy answer like 200 people on a soccer team? No, you could have 17 people, it'd be a lot, but it's more than the 13, so that makes sense. And 13 plus 4 gives us 17. So these problems are getting kind of tricky. You have to think really carefully about what you're going to draw. All right, this next one I want you to draw with me. So make sure you have paper, pencil, something to write with. Here's our next challenge. Listen carefully and think about what you can write. Easton read 16 pages in his book. Danny read 4 less in his book. How many pages did Danny read? I'm going to read it one more time. Think about what would our biggest number be that we put on the top. Okay, think about that as I read it one more time. Easton read 16 pages. Danny read 4 less than Easton. How many pages did Danny read? So if Danny read less, that means Easton read more. So Easton's would be the biggest number that we put as our whole, and it's 16. So let's go ahead and build this. Our tape diagrams. Bloop, bloop, bloop. And you know what? Another way we can draw tape diagrams is like this. So you don't have to put that in a rectangle. You can just kind of do this. 16 is our whole. And then Danny read 4 less. So that's one of our parts. 4. All right, I want you to build this. pause the video and see if you can solve using an adding sentence or a subtraction sentence. All right, pause the video. All right, if you're back, that means you went ahead and drew this out and you tried to solve. So let's think, what can we do? We can do an adding sentence or a subtraction sentence. Well, we know with our number bond, 4 plus our part would give us 16. We don't know what our part is, so it'd be 4 plus something gives us 16. Or we could do 16, take away a part, gives us the other part. Take away a part gives us 4. Yeah, that works either way. So we can make it 16 minus 4. I'd probably do it like this. 16 minus 4 gives us what? Okay. Now we could solve this by figuring out the adding sentence or the subtracting. In this case, I would probably do subtracting. So let's do that together. Put 16 in your head. We're going to take away 4. 16, 15, 14, 13, 12. 12. Interesting. Now remember, we have to make sure our story makes sense. Is our answer reasonable? Let's see, I'm going to read it one more time and let's check and make sure our answer is reasonable. I'm going to fill this in, fill that in. Okay. Easton read 16 pages. Danny read 4 less. How many pages did Danny read? Does that make sense if Danny read 12? 12 plus 4 is 16. 16 minus 4 is 12. That makes sense. Is 12 a number of pages you could read in a book? Yeah, it's not like 3,000 or something like that, or 0. So 12 is a good answer. It makes sense. It fits our number sentences. All right, let's do one more together, and then you're going to do one by yourself. Okay? And we're still using our tape diagram and our number bond. Here we go. Ooh, this one has Aiden in it, and he's building a block tower. So let's listen carefully. Aiden built a block tower using 14 blocks. Okay, we can even write that down. Aiden, I'm going to write an A for Aiden, used 14 blocks. It told us that, so I'm going to write that down. He used 14 blocks. Miri built a tower by using 5 more blocks than Aiden. So we don't know how many Miri used, but we know it's more than Aiden. She used 5 more blocks than Aiden. So what does that tell us? Is hers going to have more or less? Definitely more. So let's build that. Oh, we can't do the whole because we don't know what our big number is, but we do know Aiden's 14 plus how many more will give us Miri's. So let's see, we said she used 5 more blocks. So Aiden had 14, Miri had that, what Aiden had, plus 5 more. How many blocks did Miri use? So let's go ahead and do that with our tape diagram. 14 plus 5. And what's our answer going to be? Go ahead and pause the video, see if you can solve. All right, if you're back, that means you already tried to solve. So what would our number sentence be? 14 plus 5. Good. And let's count on to solve this. 14 plus 5 more. So put 14 in your head. Let's add 5 more. 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. 19. All right, so 14 plus 5 is 19. Does that make sense that Miri could use 19 blocks? Yeah, you could build something with 19 blocks. That would be our whole. And is 19 5 more than 14? Yeah, if you did 19 minus 5, you would get 14. So there's a couple different ways we can show that thinking. Very cool. So Miri built with 19, Aiden built with 14. Very cool. All right, you are going to solve one more, and I'll go ahead and read it to you now, and then on the next page, you'll hear the audio too. Okay? Your last challenge. Gavin is reading a book that has 16 pages. Juan is reading a book that has 6 less pages than Gavin's. How much longer is Gavin's book than Juan's? Think about that. Whose book is more? Whose is longer? Gavin's has 16. Juan's is 6 less pages. So Gavin's would be your whole on top. Okay? See if you can solve it on the next slide, and if you want to, the audio will be there so you can listen to it again. And I will see you for writing. Bye.